It's European football time. As we know, Europe, European football has kicked off. European football has taken its new start of the season. Some European leagues kick off for some domestic silverware, as we see in England, as we see in France, and in Europe we see the Super Cup that was played last week. Para esos que no saben, esto es pase ambidiestro, ambidextrous pass, fútbol honestamente, soccer, football honestly. But now we are going to talk about the Community Shield. A Arsenal against a Man City took place for the 2026-2027 Community Shield, and Arsenal has won 3-0. An Arsenal that, first of all, was superior. The superior team was Arsenal. Arsenal just asserted dominance from the opening whistle. Riccardo Calafiori stuck in the first minute following a precise through ball from Lewis-Skelly. Arsenal extended their lead in the 28th minute when Havertz capitalized of an error by Manchester City goalkeeper Donnarumma to head the ball home. Shortly after halftime, Captain Martin Odegaard made it 3-0 in the 48th minute with a clever dummy inside the penalty area that just left Donnarumma seated. Left Donnarumma, just let Odegaard do what he did. But Manchester City struggled to mount a response, finishing with 0 goals and testing David Raya barely throughout the match. In this game, we do see a Manchester City that there is gaps, there are certain names missing. New manager, maybe not the best system to play with, or not the right execution at the time. It's just the beginning of the season, but you see there is something in this Manchester City. There's many variables that you could say that make this Manchester City take a 3-0 loss, and Arsenal that was superior. An Arsenal that was superior in many ways, in all ways, if you can say, in this game. A Manchester City that did not create threat, did not have any composure on the ball. They were not able to control the game how Manchester City is known to control the game when they were under Pep's ruling. Management, philosophy is going to be a little bit hard for Maresca. Yes, it's only the first game. It doesn't determine the rest of the season, but we can see slight predictions of what is wrong or what could be wrong in this Manchester City team, and it's evident that there is some amazing players that are evident to be missing in this Manchester City structure that is not the same since Pep left. But as we know, in this Manchester City game, we had a Blitzkrieg Opening. Arsenal caught Manchester City just off guard within the first half minute of action, setting an aggressive high pressing tempo early from the beginning of the game. We had a goal in the first 30 seconds. In the first minute of this game, there was a goal. This was also a debut nightmare for Maresca, a very, very competitive match that just turned into a debut nightmare. The match marked a tough official debut for this manager, Enzo Maresca, as a Manchester City manager whose team struggled for tactical composure and possession. And it's evident that in this Manchester City, you see a void without Rodri. City missed Rodri in the engine room due to the recovery from his World Cup, him trying to go to Barcelona. But this Rodri has officially left Manchester City and is on his way to Barcelona. If not, he's already at Barcelona. But it's evident that City missed Rodri. It's evident that City missed players like Bernardo Silva. And at the same time, you have the Grealish reintegration. Jack Grealish was brought on to halftime following his loan spell to Everton, and sidelining potential involvement in City's frontline plans this season. City needs to adapt too many voids were left. A huge philosopher of its football, its identity to what Man City has developed to today is just, you can say, taken away from them right away. So this team goes into an identity crisis, trying to seal those gaps and trying to reinforce in their strengths, because they have lost those major pillars in their starting 11 that showed who Manchester City were. Now Maresca finds himself on trying to put this team together tactically and make sure that they simulate, at least to a degree, the same level that Pep Guardiola left this Manchester City. Because yes, you do lose some important players, but you still have majority of your players in this Manchester City. That some players go due to contract expiration, others want new ventures, or just players looking to finalize their journey with Manchester City in general. But Arsenal in this game, is evident that Arsenal reinforced their core strengths and they raised the ceiling. Rather than just buying backups, Arsenal primary focused was to elevate the quality of their starting 11 in the main midfield. And that's exactly what we see. I believe that some of the players that this Arsenal has brought will give players like Odegaard, players like Harvards, just the space and the freedom to be able to operate their full length on attacking. And it gives this Arsenal so much more depth in their midfield rotation. Guimaraes is a great acquisition. He will help, and he will definitely bring a side of Odegaard that has not been able to be seen due to Odegaard playing a reserve type of football. This Arsenal also has been focused on covering gaps in the departures of some of these players to maintain the floor on how they competed and why they competed for last season. This Arsenal just ensures depth across 4 competitions, and several moves directly cover the roster X's and specific tactical voids that happened in this Arsenal team. And it's evident they did replace the voids. They did strengthen their course, and this would change Arsenal going forward. But a Manchester City that, again, as we know, it was very, very evident that this team is not the same team from last season that was competing for the Premier League. The biggest void for me is the mastermind of the football that Man City plays, Pep Guardiola. He's the biggest piece in the puzzle. Then from there on, you start losing players in your midfield. The midfield is, to a degree, the core of a team. You lose players like Bernardo Silva, you lose players like Rodri, you lose players like John Stones, and at the same time, you have ongoing rumors and talks of other players that just came to this Manchester City that want to leave or are seeking for a loan somewhere else for more playing time. But in this game, this Manchester City seemed to have a cold start and an early disruption, considering Riccardo Calafiori's goal just in 24 seconds into the match ruined City's match strategy early in the starting seconds of this game. The passive shape on the edge of the box allow Lewis-Skelly to slip through the line and just break passes with ease. There was a midfield void again without Rodri, playing with the debut in Elliot Anderson alongside standard midfield options like the central control, structural ability, and defensive transition coverage typically provided by Rodri. This engine guy was not in the middle of this midfield. This guy is the engine of this Manchester City. Manchester City now is forced to look or mold one of their players that they currently have in this squad to play the Rodri script in this team. You also have an extreme isolation of Erling Haaland in this game. Haaland that was start of central service due to Arsenal's compact 4-2-3-1 double pivot just managing the 7 touches in 53 minutes before being substituted. And also the ineffective wide isolation play. Maresca instructed wingers like Jeremy Doku and Antonio Semenyo to stay high and wide for the 1v1 situations, but Arsenal fullbacks just routinely funneled them into harmless, low percentage areas. Arsenal did a great job on and off the ball. Man City lacked the technical creativity to possess the ball and create opportunities to not be put out of this game entirely. Yes, it's not the biggest score. It's 3-0. It's a dominant score, but it's not a trashing score. But in the sense of who these two opponents are, a 3-0 over Manchester City, it says pretty much you were dominant. And the possession, the ball, the touches, the offsides, the corners, every single one of these statistics brings on the argument that Arsenal was the most dominant team on the field. The individual errors and the goalkeeping missteps, just Donnarumma struggled under high pressure, mishandling Tosley's cross for Kai Havertz's header and diving early on Martin Odegaard's dummy for the third goal. But also, this is a preseason match sharpness lag. Having several key stars return late following summer World Cup duties left City visibly off the pace compared to Arsenal's sharper, high-intensity pressing. And we see that this Manchester City is trying to fulfill covering the structural gaps and the replacing exits of some of their players. City are actively patching voids left by expiration player departures, squad reconstruction, which is focus of this Manchester City since the game was not comparable to Arsenal. We do see that this Man City is definitely focused on covering the structural gaps and replacing some of major exits that identify this Manchester City. And Manchester City at the same time does want to reinforce their core strengths. They high impact midfield upgrade. They got a player like Elliot Anderson who definitely can play for Manchester City, but it will take time. Players have to adapt to the system and to their teammates, to the new way of playing football. Every club has different process of playing their football, how things are developed in the training ground. Elliot still has time. Only time can tell. Again and again, I will always say it. Only time can tell in football and in sports in general. But we do see that this Manchester City wants to cover some gaps, wants to replace the exits. And they did reinforce some core strengths, but new manager, new faces. The system can definitely work, but it will take time to come back. And for Manchester City fans, the good thing is that it's only some missing pieces. It's not a project that has to be built from the ground up like we see some of these teams that every 5-10 years they just rebuild. And these things do happen in football. But this Manchester City just does not seem to be there yet, with Pep missing Bernardo Silva, Rodri, John Stones, main player in the defense, 2 main players in the midfield, and the mastermind of the identity of football Manchester City plays, Guardiola, all left last season. And City find themselves in the struggle to cover huge important presence of certain people in this team. But this Community Shield had the fastest goal in the Community Shield history. Riccardo Calafiori scored just 24 seconds into the match. He broke the 50-year-old record held by Manchester City's Bobby Owen, who scored 35 seconds in the 1968 Community Shield against West Bromwich Albion. But we also bring this Community Shield brings Arsenal into the topic, brings the transfer window into the topic, because we're still in the transfer window. So it brings the Lewis-Skelly talking point. Lewis-Skelly that has emerged as one of the most widely discussed topics around Arsenal due to his tactical evolution, his contract status, and recent transfer speculation. And even Arteta came out and said, it is good when you hear other teams or people talking about your players because that means they are good. Very, very true. But in this world of social media, news, influencers, and everything that we know around us, there's players out there that do push the envelope and contact some of these people like Fabrizio to just push the envelope and put pressure on management or staff to give players a little bit more playing time. Who knows the true story if Lewis-Skelly wants to leave, if there's actual teams interested in Lewis-Skelly, or if Arsenal just want to get a buck for him and see how it goes. Who knows? But let me tell you, Lewis-Skelly has been developing really well and it's very, very, very noticeable. And this is a specific game, the Community Shield against Manchester City. He assisted one of the games and played a well-rounded game for his position, his age. He's a very good developing, promising player. He is doing great and he still has room to develop. But Lewis-Skelly has so many speculations on the transfer window and the transfer market, but it was a Community Shield masterclass from him. And starting in central midfield alongside with new signing Bruno Guimaraes in the 3-0 Community Shield victory over Manchester City, Lewis-Skelly set up Riccardo Calafiori 24-second opener with a clever turn pass, just with a clever turn past Phil Foden and slide rule pass. There is a positional evolution, initially breaking into the senior squad as an inverted left back during the 2024-25 season. The 19-year-old from Hell End Academy product has transitioned back into his natural central midfield role in this actual Arsenal senior team. But there has been a lot of transfer rumors and speculation. The media reports link Lewis-Skelly with potential interest from rivals such as Manchester United, Chelsea, just following Arsenal's midfield additions. However, his standout performance in preseason and starting role in the Community Shield reinforced his importance in Mikel Arteta's squad depth. Last season, he did play a certain amount of games. He did not play as much as some would like, but you have to be patient, not fully take away the opportunities of him playing, because playing is the only way a player can mature and get better at their game and actually put their training into what football is to make sure that they have advanced with their training more than anything. But this Lewis-Skelly has a contract and most likely is loyal to Arsenal. And under contract long term with Arsenal, Lewis-Skelly publicly just reiterated his commitment to the club during preseason after scoring against Como. And the guy is a talking point for the simplicity that he is a great player. He's a player that is developing. And Arsenal would be insane to let go of this guy who is doing great and still can develop while making a difference on the field. He's only entering his 20s. He is doing great at the moment. He's developing, and the best part is that he's doing great, but he still has more room to develop. That is the beauty of this Lewis-Skelly, that he does have a future in this Arsenal team, and he will definitely be kept by Arsenal due to the great job he has been doing so far. All the talking points are talking points for a reason. All the hot takes are hot takes for a reason. Arsenal is doing great. Only time can tell how Arsenal is covering the gaps, how they raise the ceiling, and how they reinforce their core strengths, and how Man City is actually focused on sealing some voids, some player exits. But for those that don't know, esto es pase ambidiestro, ambidextrous pass, fútbol honestamente, soccer, football honestly. If you like the content, please like and subscribe. And like Ross said, feel how you want to feel. Just hit that subscribe button. Thank you all. Have a great day.